Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are opening the files on, honestly, one of the most massive historical cold cases of all time. We're talking about the Great Library of Alexandria. This isn't just a story about a building. It's a story about massive human ambition, the pursuit of understanding, and a totally devastating loss that has literally echoed through the centuries. We're going to examine the evidence, look at the brilliant minds who built it, and uncover the really surprising truth about how it actually disappeared.
So, I want you to start by asking yourself a quick question. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find that the servers hosting, say, half of the world's digital knowledge were just permanently wiped out. Every bit of history, science, literature, philosophy, just gone. Poof. That staggering, absolute loss of human history and global knowledge, that is exactly what the ancient world experienced. The disappearance of this library left a void in our collective memory that honestly, we're still trying to comprehend today.
And to really wrap your head around the sheer scale of this tragedy, you have to look at the numbers. At its absolute height, high estimates claim this single repository held up to 700,000 scrolls. 700,000! The scope of this collection was absolutely unprecedented in human history. This wasn't just some local archive. It was a massive, organized attempt to gather literally every single piece of known writing in the world under one roof.
Section 1. The Ancient Hub. So, where was this legendary institution actually located? Let's step right into the cinematic wonder of the ancient world. And this brilliantly illustrates why Alexandria was the absolute perfect location. Founded by Alexander the Great right on the shores of Egypt, the city quickly became a major Mediterranean port and a massive intellectual hub. It was the absolute center of trade, the economy, and just urban vitality. Because of its incredible strategic location, it became this natural meeting point where ancient Egyptian civilization merged seamlessly with Greek, Roman, and Middle Eastern cultures. It was basically the crossroads of the ancient world.
Now, after Alexander the Great died back in 323 BC, his empire was divided up. His general, who became Ptolemy I Soter, took control of Egypt. He and his son, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, founded the Ptolemaic dynasty. And these guys were deeply, deeply invested in promoting Hellenistic culture. They realized pretty quickly that building a massive universal library wouldn't just help them govern, it would incredibly enhance the city's prestige. Honestly, it was the ultimate ancient flex of tremendous wealth and power, totally designed to attract the absolute greatest scholars from across the known world.
And the thing is, they viewed this whole project with incredible reverence. The library was actually part of a larger research institution called the Mausoleum, which was dedicated to the Muses, the goddesses of the arts. According to popular descriptions from the time, there was this beautiful inscription reportedly hanging right above the shelves holding the papyrus scrolls that read, "The place of the cure of the soul." Isn't that beautiful? They didn't just see this as some dusty data storage center. They literally viewed knowledge as medicine for the human spirit.
Section 2. The Scale of Knowledge. So, let's take a closer look at exactly what kind of knowledge was being curated and housed inside these giant library halls.
You see, the Ptolemies didn't just want Greek texts. They wanted a truly universal library. Legend actually tells us they brought together 70 learned men just to translate the Hebrew Old Testament into Greek, a massive work known as the Septuagint. But they didn't stop there. They aggressively collected and translated Egyptian records, Babylonian texts, and even Buddhist writings. They were basically attempting to cement their world together by importing the entirety of human learning, regardless of where it came from.
But think about it. With hundreds of thousands of scrolls pouring in, they desperately needed a system. Enter a brilliant scholar named Callimachus. He created the world's first true subject catalog, known as the Pinaeus. And this wasn't just some basic list. It was a highly sophisticated bibliography that analyzed texts and gave detailed information on the authors. The Pinaeus itself was massive. It took up an estimated 120,000 scrolls all on its own. But here is the real tragedy. Not a single complete version of this catalog survives today. We literally don't even have the list of what we lost.
Section 3. Scrolls and Scholars. Now, how did they physically get all of these works? Let's explore the somewhat quirky and honestly fascinating tactics these ancient rulers used to amass this incredible collection.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that the library enforced a remarkably aggressive and, arguably pretty deceitful harbor policy. Customs officials literally had strict orders to search every single ship that anchored in the port of Alexandria. If they found any manuscripts or scrolls, they impounded them right then and there. But here is the kicker.
They would take the text to the library, have scribes make meticulous copies, and then they would give the copy back to the angry owner and keep the original for themselves. Seriously, they even borrowed official Greek tragedies from Athens for a massive cash deposit, only to willingly forfeit that deposit just so they could keep the originals.
And you gotta remember, these weren't modern hardback books sitting on sturdy wooden shelves. Egypt had this abundant supply of the papyrus plant, which was absolutely vital to this whole operation. The scholars worked with highly delicate papyrus scrolls. A single piece of writing might occupy several different scrolls, which were carefully stored in linen or leather jackets and kept in racks along these beautiful Greek columns. So we're talking about a vast, incredibly fragile ecosystem of information.
Section 4. The Great Fire Mystery. We need to lower the pace just a bit here, because we have to address the ultimate question. How did all of this incredibly delicate papyrus just vanish?
If you look at the historical lineup of suspects over the centuries, you'll see there is absolutely no shortage of blame to go around. The historic truth is that because of its prime strategic location, Alexandria was a really frequent target. The library was damaged by fire during Julius Caesar's civil war in 48 BC. It was devastated during Emperor Aurelian's attack in the 3rd century. Then there were major religious riots under Emperor Theodosius in 391 AD that led to even further destruction. And finally, some historical accounts blamed Caliph Omar during the Muslim conquest of Egypt in 639 AD.
The debate over who actually dealt the final blow remains highly controversial among historians today. Some firmly believe Julius Caesar's harbor fire spread and accidentally wiped out the bulk of the collection. Others point the finger at Caliph Omar, though historians are quick to note that sources blaming the Arab conquest didn't actually appear until the 13th century, making their authenticity pretty heavily debated. So, the objective takeaway here? The historic record simply shows the library was an unfortunate victim of a city constantly caught in the crosshairs of war and endless regime change.
Section 5. The Final Twist. We are about to reveal a surprising historical reality that totally contradicts the dramatic myths we've all been taught in school.
You know, Hollywood loves the image of a single, catastrophic inferno burning the ancient world's knowledge in one tragic, cinematic afternoon. But so, the crucial point is that the historical reality is much more mundane, and honestly, perhaps a lot more tragic. The library most likely suffered a really slow decline. It faced massive budget cuts, the city's declining relevance on the world stage, and just a general lack of maintenance. Plus, there was a major technological shift happening. The world was moving away from the papyrus scroll to the codex, which is a set of pages bound under a wooden or leather cover. Much like the books we use today, the scrolls simply weren't transferred to the new format, and over centuries of neglect, they just rotted away or were lost to smaller, undocumented fires.
Section 6. A lasting symbol. Even though the physical scrolls literally turned to dust, the idea of the library never actually died. Let's look at why this loss still resonates with us so deeply today. The Great Library became this lasting symbol of human ambition, endless curiosity, and of course, the profound tragedy of lost knowledge. And that legacy is so powerful that it actually inspired a modern revival. Today, on those very same shores in Egypt, stands the new Bibliotheca Alexandrina. It is a stunning, massive modern library built specifically to honor the ancient institution. It's designed to once again act as a center of cultural radiance and a meeting point for the world's knowledge. It's really a beautiful testament to the fact that while we lost the original scrolls, we never lost the human desire to learn.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty heavy thought to ponder. If the absolute greatest collection of knowledge in the ancient world could just slowly fade away due to shifting technologies, simple neglect, and budget cuts, what modern knowledge might we be carelessly letting slip away today as our own technologies constantly change? It's a fascinating mystery, but also a stark warning from history that we'd be very wise not to ignore. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you next time.